We're into the second half of today, so Ion coming up against Mammoth in this best of two, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Ion have in store for us. I mean, maybe there's a little bit of pressure released off of them now, Max, because that 2-0 from ground zero in the best of two we just saw now means Ion are qualified for playoffs. So the pressure and the stakes maybe aren't as high for them to have to win every game this series.
Yeah, in terms of standings, the pressure's not there, but I think in terms of kind of trying to get back to their winning ways, it definitely is. They haven't had the greatest run, 0-6 in their last 3 showings, obviously up against the 3 top teams in the league. But ultimately, this is a team who have been, very promising as rookies, but yet to get those wins on the board against those teams they will be playing in the playoffs. So I think that their match coming into Mammoth today, yes, they've obviously locked their playoffs already, but they're certainly looking to get back into form here.
How would you describe their playstyle skim forward side of Ion?
I would say incredibly explosive. I feel like you've got a steady hand in Foreigner that can be very flexible. Doraemon has been the king of solo kills, even more so than we've seen from Woodon, so I'm expecting him to try and take a bit of a battle in that top lane. And for me, Jovi, just mechanics max. Plays anything, plays it still as if he's in the lead, no matter what his KDA looks like. So I'm excited to see how he fares into Dajong.
Well, you may as well keep going here and give me some positive things to say about Mammoth as well, Skimmy.
Well, Mammoth have obviously made a few roster swaps as the season's gone on by. We had the likes of Dajong join the roster quite recently, adding another level of experience to that team. And I feel like these 3, your topside and Gudo and Nectar as well, have all spent a fair bit of time together in the past on the previous Mammoth iteration. So I feel like in terms of that, you've got a steady hand to really kind of guide you on through. Their champion pools, they've all got pocket picks that you can certainly rely upon. We saw the likes of Gudo absolutely smurfing it here on the Kindred. I think hitting like 12 or 13 stacks very quickly and really 1v9 in that game. Obviously, Nectar is incredibly flexible, very much like a Tien, if you will. He'll play the Gnar, he'll play the Zac, he'll play the Udyr in that top lane too. Has shown us that he can play the Gwen, much like a Tomasino, so can be very flexible with whatever the draft facilitates. I think the concern for me is, whilst Asta certainly innovated by debuting this Lissandra support, whilst they absolutely crushed things in game 1 against Direwolves, the second game they got absolutely destroyed here by the double support comp. They look like a shadow of themselves, what only happened, like, say, 10-15 minutes before. So there is still that lack of consistency which might be haunting them, and I'm sure both these teams are coming in saying, we've just had 6 defeats versus the big 3, we're hunting for any kind of result we can get. So this was a really hard one to call, but I feel like both teams are really hunting to close out the season with a bang.
Yeah, it's going to be, I don't want to say a tough one for either side, but you really have to have like that mental fortitude, the strength to be able to reset, to look at your past games, to break down and be like, okay, these were our issues, but at the same time, you can't be too hard on yourself. And out of these 2 rosters, Max, who do you think is going to have that advantage? Maybe it's due to veteracy or not.
It's so hard to say because on the one hand, Mammoth is a team who seem to have finally found their form, at least somewhat. I think with these constant roster changes coming in now, I think they have a decent idea of what they want their team and what they want their identity to be. But Ion, on the other hand, have really seemed just like the kings of the rest, right? When you look at the other teams, besides Fury, they have just been dominating everybody else, and Mammoth obviously falling down towards that bottom end of the standings kind of puts them in a similar boat to the teams that Ion has already found success against.
Well, let's see if one of our Ion players agrees with us and our viewpoints of that. We've got Hex Flash. He's going to join us right now. Hex Flash, how have your last few weeks been for you?
It's good, it's good.
That's good to hear. I guess it has been like tough results-wise for you guys. So how have you and the team been resetting and preparing for this upcoming series?
We just went back to the drawing board, see what our mistakes are, and we're trying to refine them and minimize them as much as possible. And just, playing to our strengths, as you mentioned before, that we have a very explosive playstyle and we play through our mid and jungle. So we're looking to implement that today.
Do you think that this patch is also going to help a little bit for you guys in opening up the champion pool, maybe going back to the success that you found in the early weeks of this split?
Yeah, the changes are really well, really good for expanding the meta and different kinds of play, and also for macro too, because the terrain is different. So looking forward to play today.
Nice, Max.
Look, you guys are coming up here against Mammoth, who are down towards the bottom of the standings now. You guys have just locked in the playoffs. So first of all, how are you feeling about that? Obviously, as a young team, locking your way into playoffs, but also does that kind of ease up the pressure coming into today?
Obviously, it does ease up a bit of pressure, but we're still going to play as if, every win counts. So it's not going to, qualifying for playoffs or not, we're still going to do the exact same. under any circumstance. So looking forward to today.
Perfect.
And Skimmy, finally.
Yeah, I was going to ask yourself there, Hayden, be more so along the lines of, obviously, the second time you've been on a roster here with foreigners, so communication being a strong point, no doubt, between the jungle support link-up. In that regard, has there been a clear communication point that you guys are the go-to link-ups in terms of, hey, I'm looking to try and gank mid, Jovi, let's make something happen? Or is it being very much like, you sort of keep to your own, keep to yourselves, and very much focused on laning phase with Nebula?
Yeah, it is me and Foreigner. Well, Foreigner's mostly doing most of the shot calling, but yeah, we kind of exchange things, and top helps us with a bit of macro, and mid helps us with a bit of like setup and engage on champs like Azir and Ori. So yeah, the communications pretty well, yeah. And me and Foreigner used to play back in Kanga, so there's a bit of there's a little bit of less effort needed for this team to form.
Oh, and a final question. I'm going to sneak this one in here, Nat. Yeah. I've asked every single player today, can we get a certain champion? And they've delivered. I asked for the Smolder, I asked for the Ezreal, we got that. This one's going to be maybe harder for you to try and sum it up, but back in your Kanga days, you played a Cho'Gath support. Are we going to get a fasting Cho'Gath with the center? Are we going to get some crazy variation to really shake things up?
I don't think anything will be anything off meta today, so happy to break the spirits, but
set my expectations. That's okay.
But yeah, maybe in the future we'll be pulling out. I will be pulling out my Cho'Gath once again. I'm looking. Hopefully,
beautiful. I'll be there.
We might.
Awesome, mate. Well, good luck.
Hexflash, thank you so much for joining us. Good luck today.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. I like
That's a hard one, Skim.
It is a hard one. I knew as soon as I said it.
But I like it because it gave Hexflash he's like the only player that's done the right thing, He under-promised, which means if he picks anything off meta, it's over-delivering. So it might not be the Cho'Gath you want, but he says off meta, it's a new patch, things are changing, maybe his version of meta or what he's trying to sell to us as meta still might be a little bit different than the previous patches or the previous games that we've seen him play, right?
I hope so. Fingers crossed. I just feel like my fingers are permanently crossed when I'm on an LCO broadcast at this point. I'm always asking for wild and wacky stuff.
Yeah. I think out of any region, we can ask these questions and we can prod at the players and we can try and see if they're willing to take the bait a little bit for some new champions. But we're going to get a new player in here to have a chat to. Dajong is going to come on. Dajong, hello. It's been so long since I've last spoken to you. How are you?
Hi, you guys. How are you, Nat? How's your break?
I'm good. I had a nice little break. I appreciate you asking that. How's it be coming back to play? How good does it feel?
Feels pretty good. Other than very important game for us today. I mean, it's either make or break, so a lot of pressure, but that's where the fun's at, I guess.
Yeah, when we had you on broadcast last Split, you really talked about how just in those few weeks of Split 2 last year, you developed a lot as a player. Do you think coming back now, you've had that off time, maybe the mental's a bit stronger and you don't really succumb to the pressure as much despite these games are seemingly being important?
Honestly, I think it's very different. My role on that team, all of this thing is very different from what it was. I obviously had very extraordinary players last split, and a lot of it was, kind of do your role kind of thing, and just be there, and then just make your timely engages here and there. Just make sure you do your job. But this split, I think it's a lot how we all work together as a team, because a lot of it was kind of following last split and just following to other cores. But this time, I'm a lot more involved in that, so I think it's very different in how I play the game now.
That's awesome. I can't wait to see then some more growth for you. And I know that you haven't been playing all Split, but we've got new mid laners coming in. How has it felt just kind of watching the LCO with these new mid laners? Have you been following anyone specifically, maybe taking some lessons or some champions from some of these players that have returned?
I mean, I really wasn't sure when I was on my break if I wanted to play, but then watching Harry and Ryoma and all these guys being released and everyone making posts on Twitter about them joining, I was really brought up my competitive spirit, made me really want to come back. Really, unfortunately, is I missed both those games against them, so I never actually burst them on stage. But obviously, I get to burst them in scrims, get to know how good they are, and just enjoy playing versus them, I guess.
Yeah, look, there's a chance that, if you guys make it to playoffs, you could potentially come up against them there too. So, hope isn't all lost. You might be able to still get an official game before them. But, Skimmy, I'll pass it to you if you'd like to ask a question.
Look, I'm sure my other casters absolutely hate me asking these questions time and time again, but my theme of the day has been asking for crazy champions. Now, I asked Hexflash before if we were going to get something wild, like a Cho'Gath support. I know, once upon a time, you played Zac mid into Yone. Jovi likes Yone. Is there a world? Do my fingers need to stay crossed, mate?
Unlikely, but there is a world to see something new. I mean, this patch itself has a lot of stuff, right? Like the Hueys, the Smolders, the ASOL rework, I believe, is enabled as well.
Yep.
So there's a lot of possibilities there. I guess it just depends how the draft goes. But I wouldn't count on it because I don't know if you guys know, but my first amateur team or first league team in general I joined was actually basically what Iron is now. So like the head coach or owner, I'm not really sure how the set's going right now, but Latte, that's the first org I joined. So a lot of them know me since I was like first playing the game and stuff like Hayden. So will be interesting to see what happens in draft.
Oh, inside knowledge.
We're expecting a Zoe ban like always.
Now, speaking of exciting things happening in the mid lane, Jovi and Foreigner have kind of been the key to Ion's success, and you and Gudo have obviously had some very good showings as well for Mammoth. But how are you feeling coming into this 2v2 matchup today?
I mean, it's a little unfair. Like, Gudo and I are Korean, they're not, so it is what it is for them.
Korean gap, that's all it is.
Of course, all the
I
time.
love it. Absolutely love talking to you, Dajong. Unfortunately, though, we do have to let you go. You do still have a series that you have to play, but thank you for joining us and good luck today.
All right, thank you guys. See you.
See ya. Oh, it's so nice catching up with Dajong. I literally have not spoken to him since we had him on broadcast last split, which was
In studio, wasn't it?
yeah.
Wow.
Way too many weeks ago.
What a good time.
It was a lot of fun, and it's nice to see his growth, or what he feels he has grown, especially with some new players coming in that he gets to scrim against. But we got to turn our eyes to this official, and it is going to be Ion having red sides. They're going to have that counter pick for both games. Mammoth are going to be having blue side first pick for both games, something that was very prevalent in both of yesterday's series, Max.
Yeah, the red side pick is interesting to me. I think it definitely signals a solo lane is going to be the target for Ion. I know I kind of mentioned it in that interview, but Jovi and Dajong is a very exciting matchup in that middle of the map, right? I think they're very explosive players and both very capable of carrying the games if they're able to get that wacky counter pick. So, it'll be wait to be seen what they do end up picking up there.
Yeah, I just really enjoyed this patch. I love that you've asked me every interview as well what we're going to be getting.
Yes.
If you guys believe that there's going to be some enjoyable, wacky picks, maybe something out of meta, then you guys should have your say on who you think is going to be winning with that. So make sure you use your Twitch points. Make sure you use those channel points up there in the top right above Max. If you want some inspiration, you can have a look at our predictions right now. I think we might all be the same across the board. We've all been pretty unanimous.
No, we're losing.
Yesterday.
Oh, in terms of actual predictions, my bad.
Yes. Sorry, yes.
This was so tough because I was like flip-flopping between going for a draw or a 2-0. I feel like the implications of the result are much more favorable for Ion instead of they are for Mammoth. So I feel like with them knowing if we get a 2-0, we're just done, we're locked in, we're happy days. I feel like that gives them that extra edge of like the sort of motivation. Not that you need much more motivation to really perform on a stage, but I feel like that might just be the difference maker here.
Yeah, I almost want to change to a 1-1 because I feel like maybe Mammoth will be able to pull something interesting from game one, maybe something that catches Ion a little bit off guard, but them staying same sides, I think that's very easy for Ion to make these small adjustments, right? Whereas maybe side changes might be that extra bit where you have to think about, okay, could something crazy come out? And on top of that, we're changing up our pick order too. So there is a world where I genuinely do agree with you, Skimmy, that you could be going a 1-1 pending on what Mammoth have done in the scrims and in the backwork, Max.
Yeah, look, I think this is close to 1v1 as well, but I think that Mammoth and Ion, they're actually quite similar teams in the way that they're constructed. I think they're both very reliant on their mid jungles to get ahead. And I think that if we're kind of standardizing, okay, let's say we both have really good mid jungles, I think that the other parts for Ion are just more convincing for me. I think Doraemon's looked really, really good in the top lane. I think he's just going to be absolutely fantastic up in there, and same with Nebula right towards that AD carry role, always the one to pull the trigger. So I think that whilst it's close, I still give Ion that slight edge.
How would you, it's not so much like describing their game style, but like what team comps do they like to pick up for themselves, or what side and lane priority do they like to look towards, Max, for both teams?
It really depends. Jovi's willing to bust out anything. Skimmy mentioned it before, but the Yone's been a big one. He really does like to be aggressive. Anything that enables him to kind of put pressure on the enemy laner and get those early kills going is something that he's looking towards. Towards the top lane, Doraemon is very focused on, you know, just playing his lane out. He'll happily pick up team fighting champions like a Gragas or an Aatrox or something like that
Irelia.
to be able to have an impact. Or an Irelia, which he looked fantastic on the other week, right? They didn't pick up the win, but he looked really, really good on that champion. So a lot of diversity coming through for the draft team.
Yeah. Is there anything you really want to see, Skim? And I don't mean, you know, like these crazy picks, but something that offers the stability that we're worried about from Mammoth.
On the side of Mammoth, what do I want?
Yeah.
Good question. I think, yeah, you probably want a really strong matchup for Gudo in particular to make sure that he can be a force to be reckoned with. Obviously, he showed us some of his best champions in the likes of a Lee Sin and a Kindred. I think certainly at times he's been a very much in-role player, so he's playing things like the Maokai or the Sejuani, and that offers a lot of stability going towards your side lanes. I do feel like side lanes are going to be the real make or break here. The sort of the elegance of that macro dance, who can look to try and utilize TPs or objective push pressure better, is going to come out ahead. I'm expecting a bit of a messy game where there's going to be a lot of trading or fights.
All right, well, let's see what they're going to pick up for their side lanes, as I do know Champ Select is ready.
Beautiful. Let's crack on with it then, Max. Let's see what happens in our second series of the night with Mammoth going to get blue side both times. Let's see what do they do value as a first pick priority.
Yeah, the double bans coming out here onto the Zoe and the Udyr, respecting these solo lane picks to come out from the side of Mammoth in the first pick, is looking to go towards the Varus. I really like this. I'm not a big fan of the Ashe first pick, especially in teams where the bot lane isn't as stable. The Varus first pick just provides so much more damage, so much more potential to pair it with an engaged support and then really have an explosive 2v2 down there in the bot lane. So assuming that will be going into the hands of Duck, the Ashe will be traded for Hex Flash there, or potentially Nebula. We know that Nebula, you know, does have a wide variety of champions. Not really most familiar with the Ashe, but certainly still a bit of room to work there. Is trying to round out this second pick here. A lot of 80 carry hovers being floated early on here.
I think Fido is really just trying to keep us interested as to all the different champions we won't ever see. And in the end, it is going to be the Caitlyn. So a Caitlyn Ashe lane, very, very annoying, much like we saw in the previous event, right, where you have these double ranged matchups. I feel like we've seen it almost too often now, and this is certainly an Ion comp that they've run before when they played it into Ground Zero.
Very scary from Mammoth here. Super easy execution, like we just saw 2 games in a row, making the lives of the Caitlyn and Ashe a living hell, right? It's so hard to play when not only do you have to worry about a Varus throwing all this poke into you, but you have this Nocturne Orianna coming through as well. So what will the response be, right? You do want something that's either able to survive or able to peel through this, and it's going to be the Akali. So Jovi kind of slamming the gauntlet down, saying, you're not going to be able to use that shockwave to kill my teammates if I'm killing you first.
Exactly. Yeah, the difference from last time, right, was the Azir matchup when they had a comp with the Caitlyn and an Ashe, which would have been almost a bit of an expected result, given that it has been just Azir Orianna on repeat. But Jovi, not one to shy away from being aggressive, really is going to be there to say, I'll kill you before you can kill us. And I'm really hoping we can see some prime examples of that one. Blitzcrank going to be the next ban here, which certainly not one you see ever too often. But in the right hands, they certainly had some pretty good results, especially faster.
Yeah, Nebula and Hex Flash just trying to minimize the kind of variance that there is towards that bot lane, right? You do want to make sure that you are able to play that 2v2 out with as minimal disruption as possible. So the Nautilus will also be taken away here, removing those hook champs, removing those kind of easy access champions that can really throw a spanner in the works of the bot lane. And now jungle the consideration for Ion. The red side counter pick looking like it will be saved for that top lane. And we know that Doraemon can get a lot of work done. We know that he loves to pull out the left of field counter picks in towards that top lane. Remains to be seen what he will go with, but it will be The Jarvan locked in here for Foreigner. So really nice dive combo with that Akali. Certainly able to skirmish early, which is something you definitely need when paired with this Ashe Caitlyn bot lane. And of course, that Cataclysm going to be providing so much value against the immobile Orianna and Varus.
You really had me locked in there for the first half, Max. For a second, I thought you were really going to try and once again sell us this idea of a Jarvan top laner.
Oh, I'd love it. I'd love it, but it just sucks into every meta top laner, and the Aatrox is no exception, right? This is going to be locked in for Nectar here, so keep in mind, Aatrox is a fairly, I guess, vulnerable blind pick. There are a lot of champions that Doraemon does play that pair nicely into it. The ones that immediately come to mind are the Aurelia and Camille. Now the question is, will you bring that out? There's already a ton of damage to come through from Ion, so it would be a bit of a risky pick, but you never know with Doraemon.
So they don't. He's one to get very excited when given a chance to really blow open a game state. I'm curious though, what Mammoth have put together here. They've gone for the Hui as the last pick.
There we go.
Champions taken away, and you're a happy man if it's not the Jarvan, it's the Camille.
I love this guy. He is just fantastic. Always willing to just throw down this gauntlet and say, I'm playing for the 1v1. I'm playing to carry this game by myself. I don't care that we don't have that much CC or tankiness. It doesn't matter. I'm going to be winning the game by myself. So a very nice 1v1 pickup here. The laning phase isn't the most fantastic, right? Aatrox does still have a decent time, but the real issue comes into those side lanes, right? Once Camille's scaling with that Trinity Force online, this matchup becomes so hard for Aatrox to stand into his side lane, and that means, Skimmy, that this Nocturne might be on defense duty. He might be popping the Paranoia just to get Nectar out from harm's way.
Which is a really rough spot to be in, right? When your bread and butter is pair that with the Orianna, get that combo, and you know, absolutely smash things. If you're using it defensively, you're breaking it all apart. And it certainly doesn't feel anywhere near as good, but it may just be a necessity given the amount of aggression that Ion have. Their comp is really built to do one thing, and that is press W, go forward, and destroy anything in their sight.
Dive, dive, dive is the answer. Kind of like both teams as well, with the Nocturne Orianna combo coming online here. But it will be seen how these lanes play out, because yes, a Camille and a Akali can do a lot of work if they're able to get through the laning phase and get onto your carries in a team fight, but it really is that laning phase that can be the issue here. So will remain to be seen how Doraemon and Jovi are able to pilot this in game one.
I really am excited about this one. We've got all the bells and fireworks to try and kickstart this one, and I suppose returning to that previous point about the Blitzcrank ban, it makes a fair bit of sense, because into Grand Zero it really was that Varus Blitz that gave them a fair bit of issue, given that on repeat, it was just a case of if you get aggressive, you will just simply get punished. So they've made a clear decision that if we do get our hands on this comp again, we are going to make sure that our life is as easy as possible. We really limit the answers that they will have as a response. And I'm not really too sure how the Hui is going to do into this one. Obviously, we've talked at great lengths of it being a phenomenal counter pick into the Renata, but to contend with this much as well, obviously you're a weaker support in terms of providing shield. You dare to be a damage threat, but you're going to receive more damage in the process.
It really is just a damage fest in that bot lane, right? The Varus way, you're going to be looking to blow up that one target, and similarly, the Ashe Caitlyn looking to leverage their range. It'll be really interesting to see how these two lanes play out, because like you said, the lack of shields from either side really means that with whichever way the trades are swinging early on, the priority is going to be a huge factor in deciding who is winning. So as we load into game one here rather, there's a lot on the line. A 2-0 here for Iron would secure them the 4th seed and the upper bracket for playoffs, Skimmy.
It's time to figure out where the dust settles when these teams are only a few games away now from figuring out what those regular season seedings will look like. Obviously, Iron right now, set in 4th position, would love to guarantee themselves that 4th place for that upper bracket chance. As for Mammoth, though, 2 points to the name so far. Currently set in 7th, and with Direwolves out, they would really need a 2-0 to keep that dream alive.
Yeah, a lot on the line here for this young roster. As we take a little bit of stock of the runes here, it's interesting to see that there's a double comet down towards this bot lane for Mammoth, so really favoring this poke instead of the typical Hail of Blaze that you see from Varus. I think the logic there from Duck is that if you're in an auto attack range with the support or Caitlyn, you're probably going to be taking a fair bit of damage there, so much rather play in the range of a Q or an E. And meanwhile, Doraemon up towards that top side hasn't actually opted for the Ignite here, so quite hard to actually find a solo kill into Aatrox without the Ignite, more saying that he wants to value the safety that a Flash provides, trying to get through that laning phase and then really unleash once he's got that one item.
I'm excited though, because no doubt we're going to be keeping a keen eye on what that top lane matchup could look like, but also for the mid lane too. Because as you'd imagine, for the early few stages, especially before level 6 comes online, Dajong should just be able to do this, right? Auto attack, weave in there with the command attack, and really keep Jovi at arm's length.
And it's brutal, right? It's a Conqueror Akali. It doesn't have the fleet footwork sustain coming through. Sure, you have the Doran Shield, but still, Dajong will be absolutely fine here in this early game, getting that priority. And you can already see with the wards that Mammoth have placed level 1, they will know where Foreigner is. They will have an indication that he's heading towards bot side. As we check in down to this lane, we can see that the level 1 priority did go in favor of Ion here. They're going to be able to shove these two waves in. And with the double Doran's Blade here, there's a lot of combat power for this Caitlyn and Ashe.
Certainly is. It's a common theme that we've come to expect now, right? Where you don't get the support item in your first shop. You get as much combat power as possible. And then on that first base, the Ashe then picks up the support item. It's just so annoying. Despite the changes where it was a case of double support items, we've now gone to none until you've actually won that lane. As for Foreigner though, he's gone for a sneaky little ward on the enemy red, and now he's looking to try and shadow Gudo.
So it's an interesting situation here because Foreigner does have the priority from his bot lane, but his mid lane is completely shoved in here. He will be able to sneak in though with that ward, giving him the vision to know Gudo's headed towards the Krug, so he might be able to steal this and get out, Skimmy.
It certainly looks to be the case, right? All he needed to know was, okay, you've gone down towards your Krugs. It's as easy as that for me to then swoop in, steal away your reds, and say, how do you do? He can obviously peel away to his own blue buff, pick up double, and Gudo's now pondering what to do next.
And without that bot lane priority, it makes it so hard to actually contest this blue because yes, Dajong is the one with the HP advantage and the push, but realistically, 2 members of Ion are better than 1, and they would be able to have moved up first here. So these side lanes for Ion falling in their favor early. You can see the Doran's Blade start from Doraemon has secured him the push, secured him a nice little HP advantage. About a 1-wave CS lead as we crest the 4-minute mark. So Gudo picking up that top crab, but manages to stay relatively even for the time being. But after this bot side clear comes through for Foreigner, he'll be feeling quite good with a nice little CS lead.
He certainly will do as the aggression continues in the mid lane as we poke our way in. But to Jovi's credit, he's managed to definitely do a fair chunk of damage to Dajong in the process. With a few more skills online, he's not going to be one to stand on by and watch as he gets harassed from afar, which is certainly the case here for the Mammoth bot lane as they're completely zoned away, forced to CS underneath their turret. Jovi getting dangerously low though, inside the shroud as he's looking to try and mitigate as much as he can. Life is just so difficult, shoved in like this and getting zoned away from cannons.
The good thing is though, at this HP, you really do have so much regen coming through from the Doran Shield that you are kind of not too fast about taking this poke. You will heal a lot of it up. And he does have the TP, right? That's the crucial thing. So ultimately, if he does get chunked any lower, you would expect to see that one coming out and being forced back to base. But speaking of bases, it's actually the Mammoth bot lane who could have potentially got one there for themselves on the wave bounce, choosing to instead stay here and potentially look for a bit of a cheese. Now, they do have a lot of burst, and there is a very low health bar on Nebula. They might have assumed they're backing here. They're going
for it. They're going to look to try and force that instantly. Flash away from Nebula. Burning the Ghost 2, taking no chances in this one. No summoners now existing for the bot lane of Ion. As everything but Duck is burnt to try and get that kill. In with the flash, EQ, and just like that, Foreigner wastes no time to get themselves first blood. Duck in trouble, unable to answer back with that piercing arrow, and Nebula hangs on by dear life.
Really well played there from Ion. The instant flash out from Nebula is really the deciding factor in that play. Make sure he doesn't take anywhere near enough damage to be killed there, and then they turn it around with the help of Foreigner. They're trying to get this wave in here to get the dive onto Duck, but it's just getting in too slowly. They realize that Asta will be back in time, so it'll just be the 1 kill going over. But nonetheless, no flashes in the bot lane. It's a Jarvan's dream.
Certainly is a Jarvan stream as we go into the top lane, and it's the Hexagolden Ultimatum locking in place. Nectar for the meantime as he jumps off the wall, slingshots back and hits him with some true damage, but doesn't have the passive for the shield, and Nectar just simply beats him in the 1v1.
I really do not know what Doraemon was doing there, taking that wall dive back into Nectar there. It's a death, it's a solo kill. He has no TP, so he's going to miss so much gold and a plate going over to this Aatrox here. So, you know, yes, you outscale him, but the laning phase can be tough, especially if you give him over a solo kill like that.
Certainly cannot. The best possible start then for Nectar to try and influence what should be a fairly volatile lane, but with the Sheen now being picked up by Doraemon, no doubt he'll be right back to business as he returns to this lane, still preserving that flash. Still has the ability to try and outplay One thing I wanted to mention whilst we do get a bit of a low point is the fact that we got the double Arcane Comet here in the bot lane, right? We've only seen the Arcane Comet played once by Varus. It has been very much dominated by the Hella Blades and the lethal tempo, but surely you've just got so much pressure that you can pepper them from afar and try, to some degree, match the amount of aggression that a Caitlyn and Ashe can offer.
Absolutely, I think that was the strategy that they're going for, but you can see kind of hasn't been falling in their favor. Ion still have had the bot push, and that will translate there into the Dragon, but Gudo is here on the bot lane. Keep in mind, there's no sums, and there is a Paranoia available for this Nocturne.
Yeah, can quite confidently just sit here and, yeah, we've just seen the Dajjal has fallen on down. Back to bot lane we go to continue our point, as Gudo's all on his own right now, hits the fear, there is the damage from afar, and eventually the kill does come on through. You're worried for a second there, but Gudo guarantees it.
How many times today are we going to see an Ashe with no summoner spells just fall victim to an engage? The Nocturne there finding so much value just running down the lane and taking out Hex Flash. It will be Gudo as well who picks up the kill, so getting this Nocturne nice and scaled early into the game, working towards his Hex Plate. But here we go, looking at the solo kill in mid lane. You can see, stepping up a little bit farther, E connects from Jovi, and you can see all that damage. The flash back in is nasty.
That is nice, and that's what we said about Jovi. So clean with the aggression, but back to bot lane. Really was as simple as Gudo hitting the ultimate and fearing him.
Super easy kill there coming out for Mammoth as they look to equalize the kill score there. Back in the mid lane, it is a 14 CS lead still for Dajjal, so you can see that Jovi kind of found that amidst a lane phase that was going against him. But this Akali now so scary against this Orianna with no flash. Once that perfect execution comes back up of cooldown, you have to imagine that Mammoth will have to invest some resources into just bodyguarding Dajjal so he's able to shove out these waves.
Yeah, so clean the execution, wasn't he, with the Shuriken flip to guarantee that nothing was going to miss on that occasion, dodging in and out to guarantee extra damage from that passive. And really, pixel perfect on the double flash to guarantee that kill. And the point you raised during that draft was the fact that obviously the Orianna Nocturne combo together is absolutely terrifying, but if Jovi gets strong enough, he can completely dismantle it.
That's exactly right. I mean, if Orianna's so worried about her own safety that she's unable to kind of use that offensively, you really negate so much of the power that Mammoth put together from their comp. I mean, you can see already that the bot lane isn't really going into their favor as they would have liked. Yes, they found that one kill, but still, the majority of the priority has gone in favor of this Ashe and Caitlyn, and it looks like with this second lot of grubs spawning that both supports are wanting to get up towards this. The first three did go over to Mammoth, so it would be a case of trying to deny that. Now, crucially, both supports have their ultimates. These are big engage tools for either side here, and Nectar is the one with priority, so we'll wait to see what unfolds around this second grub spawn. Here comes this Aatrox.
Certainly does, and as long as he's involved, it's a pretty tall order to try and answer that one. Hex Flash out of vision, tried to snipe a kill to make sure they got something off this plate. They're going to turn their attention back towards this Void Grubs, but very hesitant in their attempts to try and fend off the aggression that Mammoth are looking for. Flash to match the EQ in from Foreigner. In jumps Jovi, getting hit by that Spiraling Despair, and if he's feared, it means that his team are just simply losing. The lights go out, the flash is going through, and the Cataclysm locks down Gudo as Foreigner sneaks back a kill. There is the Shockwave, and the flash is disengaged away. Look at Foreigner and Jovi, the mid-jungle duo of Ion, are hanging on by a thread. And Aster, he nearly snipes him, if not for that pesky old blast cone.
He almost finds the kill on the back end there. Still looking potentially. Might find Jovi in this bush here. Jovi?
Not very often you see a support look to try and really zone members away, but he's hit the Shuriken flip, and there's a part of me that says, take it back in. He realizes, look, I may be 3 levels up. I may have all this strength, but enough is enough.
Yeah, just wanting to catch the mid-wave there, but it is a very convoluted fight. Multiple engages coming out there from Ion, but ultimately they're not actually able to blow up that one target at the start of the fight, which is really crucial. Let's take a look again here. You can see Doraemon coming down there, wanting to pincer Nectar after he uses that E, but it's a nice flash to dodge the initial flag and drag that really creates the space, and then suddenly Jovi is completely chunked to start this fight out. Does get killed. Once his Paranoia is coming through, Matt manages to escape, and it's this Shockwave on the back end that really does secure the fight for them. You can see all the AoE damage to come through. Hex Flash ultimately the only victim, but very lucky for the rest of Ion to have escaped there.
Certainly are, because it really could have gone from bad to worse in terms of really fueling the fire. That is a very strong top side of Mammoth. You've got now Nectar 2-0 on this Aatrox, the champion, certainly, that can run riot in a game like this. And for all the consideration and the excitement that you had here, Max, about the Camille coming back into effect, maybe a bit of a reason why we don't see it as often.
Yeah, well, plain and simple, it just is a lot harder to execute, especially around these early fights, right? You can see an Aatrox with the Brutalizer, now Profane Hydra completed, is just going to be so much more useful in these 3v3, 4v4 skirmishes like we're seeing, and that is kind of why Camille has struggled to find its place in the meta. Nonetheless, though, Doraemon has done a decent job of keeping up in CS, right? The gold is obviously overwhelmingly in favor of Nectar, given the plates as well as the kills that he has managed to pick up. So still, will take a while for this Camille to come online here.
Yeah, still he will. It's always been a common theme of a Camille, right? 2 to 3 items. You have the split push, the sustain, and then a real threat to be dealt with by your opposition. But time is of the essence. And right now, it is all about favoring Nectars. The Ash shot is beautiful! And look at the collapse from every single angle! Tell you what, that is the most dead Orianna you'll ever see.
Play safe mid. Guys, just play safe mid. Basically everything in the kitchen sink is thrown at Dajang there, and they will kill him, right? So a nice little roam there from Doraemon and a Hex Flash into that mid lane. It does yield a successful Dragon window, but there were a few cooldowns invested here. Mammoth does have the TP coming through. Here comes Nectar. They don't want to give this Dragon over.
As soon as they see him, they have to be fearful, because what do they have left? As you rightly mentioned, it's only the perfect execution and that Cataclysm. Maybe not enough to have the combat strength they need to contest. And Nectar says, I'll bully away on my own. I'll guarantee that our team answers back with a Dragon as well. Deny that potential, as Duck is also in a very tricky situation. Asta forced to flash away to safety, and he will be safe for the meantime. But that fate will not be the same here for Duck.
He'll get out. Asta just living on a sliver of HP there as Jovi's looking in the mid lane on Nectar.
He certainly is, and he might be nimble, but Nectar is reading him like a book right now, making sure that those Q charges are always landing where they need to. Inside the shadows, he misses two this time. It does mean he can disengage away to safety. That does force Gudo to protect the spot lane and take a massive chunk in the process.
Honestly, Mammoth have been doing a good job kind of holistically defending their turrets. You could see earlier in the play, Dajang TPing up the top lane to catch the wave that Doraemon was crashing. That means that Nectar would be able to answer that mid lane. And yeah, this Aatrox is pretty squishy with just the Profane Hydra, but his actual effective health is so high, especially when he's in that world ender. He just has so much lifesteal coming through that Jovi's not able to find the solo kill.
Yeah, very, very difficult then for him to be as aggressive as he has been into Dajang this game. But it hasn't stopped him from finding those moments of strike and certainly calling on the aid of his teammates to find a good rotate to guarantee that kill. 4-0 though is the Jarvan. This may be the best starter Jarvan will find in recent memory. A Sundered Sky online as well. And certainly, if that Flag and Drag connects, you are just gone.
Well, there's so much value for Jarvan this game. I mean, look at the Orianna and Varus, even the Hui as well, right? Any of these champions trapped in a Cataclysm, with how much damage Ion have, you will assume that they just are going to fall down. So you can see all 5 members of either team grouped up here towards this top lane. No one is actually attending to these waves in the bottom. Instead of valuing this Herald, as here goes the Paranoia.
Here we go, the Shockwave once again a little bit too late because the flash disengaged away from the Caitlyn completely ruins the combo. Jovi jumps in, look at him go, looking for the perfect execution. The members they target end up being Hui, but Foreigner going in for that kill, making it kill number 5. He literally has 90% of their kills right now, Max. It is the Foreigner show. As finally Nectar answers back and says, you want to be a carry? I can be a carry as well. He's still hunting for more as those Titans collide. But if the flag misses, there's no follow-up after.
It's Foreigner versus Nectar here. You can see once again, Doraemon's going.
He certainly is, sweeping on down and taking out Duck for his second time of the game. The Hextech Ultimatum, a distant afterfall, is the icing on the cake, really. But that really helps him for the game state to try and match this Aatrox.
6 kills here for Foreigner compared to the 3 of Nectar. And like you said, it really is those Titans colliding in the mid lane. It starts off with Gudo and this Orianna trying to find this combo, but once again, Flash creating enough distance that the combo goes awry. This Caitlyn really nicely timing the Flash, and that means Gudo's a little bit in no man's land. Jovi tries to pick up the kill off the back end, doesn't have the damage, and then it's Nectar in the back line. You can see once this guy is onto your Caitlyn who has no Flash, it is a sure kill.
Certainly was, and it makes things a little bit interesting there for Mammoth as to, okay, who really is the stronger team at this current point where fast approaching the 17-minute mark, and Mammoth, for all the good work they have of picking up 6 Void Grubs, haven't had too much time to really hit those towers. Mid is definitely looking very healthy, but as for Ion, they've been quite keen to try and hit that bot lane, and that's exactly what Jovi's done as they find the very first one of this game.
Yeah, bot lane has broken here as Doraemon. You can see already, yes, Nectar has quite the kill lead, but this Trinity Force coming through from Doraemon really means that the power is quite equalized. The single Q is going to do so much damage on towards that Aatrox, and with how squishy he is, I wouldn't expect Doraemon to shy away from trying to get a solo kill. You can see now, with this lane priority, will have a chance to shove in the wave, and with the amount of vision topside, it's incredibly hard for him to find a roam.
Well, I'm just curious to sort of figure out what Hydra variant Doraemon goes for. Like, surely it's still the Ravenous Hydra for the sustain to try and match this Aatrox, which is just going to have far too much to try and deal with, especially without any heal cut at this point. Nobody looking to really try and itemize towards that one. Obviously, Foreigner wanting to try and protect his strength by going for the Frozen Heart second, rather than even more damage like a Xin Zhao would do. And that's to be expected, 6-0. But there is that slight concern that you're thinking, if he falls on down, is the rest of his team strong enough to pick it up?
And it's kind of bittersweet here for Foreigner, because Jarvan is a champion who is almost desiring to die in these fights, right? He wants to go forward, he wants to find those value, as Dajong might be caught out here.
He certainly may, as the flash goes out. Phenomenal bait there by Dajong as the shockwave connects! Or does it? It doesn't even matter, as the cross-map Assault coming through right after. But they do get that kill, and once again, it really is a battle of who can carry harder. I say it again, it is Nectar versus Foreigner, as he's under a bit of pressure with that third dragon spawning.
That's a big death though, right, Skimmy? Because like you mentioned, that dragon spawning, and they're going to be able to force the flash out of Foreigner here. So 4 members, keep in mind Dajong does have the TP if he wants to join. Looks like this dragon is going down quite quickly. Gudo in the pit with the smite available. Foreigner has one as well, but he's looking for an engage.
It's a good chance right now for Iron to try and make something happen, because it would be a 4v4, but Dajong has now rocked up to the fight. The Shadow Corruption is going out to force him to be backed on through. He blast cones back inside the river and realizes that the dragon being gone means that they're still going to look to try and punch their ticket in this team fight. Cataclysm not really finding the best value, but the target was always get this Aatrox. But look at the lifesteal. He nearly took down Foreigner. It was like an anime battle for a second there, but Foreigner wins.
The dragon falls in favor of Mammoth, but Nectar will go over, and so will his shutdown here. So Ion feeling quite good about the ending of that fight, as Jovi might be collapsed upon here. There's a lot of movement speed for Gudo.
Yeah, Gudo's on for this one with the smite, the shockwave, the guaranteed kill. Dajong gets his first of the game, and a second time, and Assault just arrives a little bit too late.
Just greedy there from Akali as we go and see this play once again. Foreigner has a fantastic position. Duck realizes that and tries to pull the engage trigger, but that Jarvan flag and drag just so valuable in terms of creating the space. And then Nectar is really zoned off here. Once that TP comes through, you can see he's pincered between Doraemon and the rest of Ion. And yeah, it's incredibly close to taking down Foreigner, who just limps away, but it's a big shutdown going over into the pockets of Ion.
Really would have been fitting, wouldn't it, if they both fall on down, claiming one another's shutdown to say that we still will be the most fed members in this game. But at the 20-minute mark, it is Ion that have a very slim 1k gold lead. I feel like this is the game that we wanted, where it's so hard to call who is the stronger side.
And to be honest, I would say that Ion's gold lead is mostly negligible as well, because Foreigner is so much of that gold. This Jarvan doesn't really do as much damage as you would be hoping for with that gold, right? Realistically, he's not going to be one-shotting the backline, so a very even game state for 20 minutes. Only one drag separating the teams, as well as those Void Mites going over. But here goes Nectar onto Nebula.
Once again, looking for the fight, but it's a good flash to get out to safety, and most importantly, dodge out on that chain of corruption, which would have definitely spelled disaster. Surrounded by multiple is Jovi. The shockwave, it's nothing! They hit the wrong target inside that smoke screen, and then Foreigner subs in like a wrestling match and says, Dajong, get dunked on! 2 kills found, just like that. And the wealth is being spread around here for Ion. In jumps the Jarvan, but out goes Gudo. They completely turn the direction around. And as the lights come back on, they realize that only 3 members survived.
Yeah, he might just be out as well here. The bot lane of Ion falling down in a trade for those solo laners. You can see that Nectar getting caught up a little bit on the side there by Doraemon on this Camille. And the Rift Herald crucially won't be able to find any value onto that mid lane. So whilst it's an even kill trade, being able to nullify that objective is certainly nice for Ion.
It certainly is. Let's run it back with a replay of what exactly went down. Because once again, Nectar starting things off with looking to try and punish Nebula, which they do so successfully.
Yeah, the initial play forces the flash out of Nebula, but you can see Jovi once again just being a menace to the rest of Mammoth, creating so much space and buying so much time that Doraemon's actually able to collapse up here towards Nectar. Manages to trade 1-for-1, but ultimately that Camille will prove too strong. And off the back end of this, Gudo knows he's dead if he just keeps running, instead turns the play around and finds a kill into Hex Flash and just sprints out at Mach 10.
It's just comical, really, when you break it down to see that he's going in for the flag and drag. He's like, nope, I'm actually going to go kill your backline instead. And they both just walk away. It really is the Benny Hill music going on overdrive. But either way, as we mentioned before, 20 minutes into this one, and we've certainly had a lot of these fights revolving around those major objectives. Another Dragon not too far away, under 90 seconds now, but the Baron being there is always going to be that taunting point. And we've certainly seen it in the past, maybe not so much this season, but definitely in seasons gone by, where one team goes to the Baron, the other goes to Dragon.
Yeah, trade definitely something that either team would be willing to take. I think neither of them have the fastest objective clears, especially with the lethality Varus that's coming through here for Duck. So certainly not a one-shot like you would be seeing with something like an Azir, but they're looking to move members towards this mid lane tower. The Ash Arrow does land, but it's the Edge of Night that blocks it from Varus.
Yeah, the one target you really don't want it to hit, but good awareness, where you've almost got to retrain your mind to say, I can actually afford to soak this one, whereas usually you're flashing for safety. But soaks it up for the team, and invalidates that major cooldown. But they stand resilient in this mid lane. They really want to get this tower. I want to get a bit of uptime to try and utilize these Void Grubs as Nectar gets aggressive in the bot lane, dashing out of that flag and drag as a TP comes in to make it a 1v3. Gudo, Asta, and the rest of the boys are here to back him up. But as you mentioned, with so much life leech, it takes an absolute world of time to take him on down. The Cataclysm Hextech Ultimatum, that will do it. But Foreigner becoming godlike, but then instantly falling on down. Shutdown fan for Duck for his second of the game. The vision revealing Jovi as Darjing meets his match and gets a shutdown as well. And all this gold bouncing in all the right places.
Yeah, Mammoth there coming out on top of that fight. They have the upper hand in terms of position, able to get down towards that skirmish first, but here goes another ult.
Ash ult is on, Ace and Hole confirms it as well, and Asta cops a fair bit of damage in the process there. Nobody falls down, but I say it! And the fadeaway at the end there. Beautiful stuff by Nebula.
Yeah, really nice snipe there off the back end to find that pick onto Asta. But like you mentioned, Foreigner falling down is a huge gold swing. Now, 900 the lead as we take a look once again. So Jovi finding this pick initially onto Nectar, who he doesn't win 1v1, but he's brought a friend. He's brought Foreigner down here as well, and so will the TP come out. But Gudo waits till Jovi shows on vision and then pulls the trigger with that paranoia. And yes, you know, there are those initial kills coming through, but there's just so much AoE damage because Mammoth's bot lane has arrived first, and they're able to pick off these stragglers here.
They certainly could. It's been a difficult one here for the Akari to try and really excel. It's always been a state of somebody will play the blood tax of me going in to make this fight or winning one on our terms. Difficult though for Mammoth to try and retake this dragon, as they've got zero vision and they're showing no signs of interest, as either looking to try and go for the wraparound and go for the fake attempt for that dragon to instead actually gank onto Nectar. Once again, it's deja vu. His life leeching beginning denied as they flash out of it. He tries to flash to buffer the flag. It's overkill, but surrounded by so many members, it's just too much to deal with.
I mean, that Aatrox healing is even through a 40% heal card. You can see just how far Nectar is ahead, but ultimately will fall down once again as the paranoia's been popped, and it's going to take out Nebula.
It certainly has taken out Nebula. He's going to die and fall on down, which opens up the floodgates to try and do a bit of damage into this mid-tier 1. This dragon feels like it's been going on for such a long time. But eventually, that comes to an end as well. And still, 26 minutes in, it just feels like there's nothing separating these two.
It's so even, right? The second one pick is traded, Nectar goes down. It's traded for Nebula dying on the mid-wave now. Crucially, there hasn't been a break into that turret yet. Still holding on is Ion to that mid-tier 1. But really, both teams having so much pick potential, so much damage, and so much burst that a single misstep can really cost you your life. Now, the Dragons will be equalized, and as we go further into this game, the side lanes are really where the threat starts to mount for Ion, right? They have this Akali, they have this Camille, both champions capable of not only killing turrets very quickly, but also of finding solo kills in these long lanes. So how do Mammoth answer? How do they use this Nocturne to find those engagers? before they can crumble to this side lane threat.
Which is an interesting talking point, right? Because we've literally seen Iron utilize it twice now to really target down Nectar and make sure that in the same part of the map, be it bot lane, that he's unable to play the game. They're committing multiple TPs to guarantee it. They're overwhelming with numbers to make sure that he can't really clutch it out and be that true demon. And I feel like, especially once Doraemon's got that Ravenous complete, at that point, it really does become that dance of who can play the macro better.
Yeah, Camille's so mobile, so able to shove these waves out and just be a nuisance to your backline. Like, yes, this Varus has an Edge of Night. I can block an Ashe Arrow, but can you really block an Akali and a Camille diving on you? Not to mention a Jarvan ult. That anytime you have Flash will just be your death signal. So you can already see the respect being shown. Both junglers hovering over towards this mid lane. Gudo down the bot side. Paranoia able to affect either mid or bot lane. But this Edge of Night has gone so much value for Duck, right? It just means Hexflash is so hesitant to throw out that ultimate. Whereas in a normal game, this Ashe would just be setting them down mid on repeat.
Basically, yeah. And you can see he's always out of vision, waiting for somebody to step up and say, that's our turn to pull the trigger and get aggressive again before they can set up with this Orianna. And that Nocturne, the Ashe ult goes wide, not finding what they need. Asta the target right now, but Doraemon cannot connect with the hook shot. So says, you know what, I'll just commit the full kit TP instead. In comes the TP, and Nectar instantly regrets it because he gets stunned. That's a head scratcher, but this is paradise now for the Akalis. He jumps in and finds two. Nebula on the back end gets another, and Duck, before he falls on down, can take one to the grave with him. But it is an absolute calamity here as Iron just run riot and take down everybody.
There we go, they finally find the fight. Engage after engage, and they turn on the TP from Nectar to pick up those clean 4 kills, and they will head towards this Baron. There's an abundance of damage with 280 carries in a Camille. This might have been the fight that breaks open the game.
And it seems to be that way right now. This Baron's going to fall down very, very quickly. It's going to be zero response from Mammoth. They break the shield, and then they go for the Ashe ult.
Yeah, they break the shield. The Ashe Arrow does go a bit wide here, but Asta is mispositioned in the meantime. You can see flashing away from Camille. Going to do no good once that Hextech ultimatum comes through. And that, plain and simple, is a horrible TP. Straight onto a Caitlyn trap, just gets one shot before he's able to do anything. So before the fight's even started, you've lost so much of your damage. And then Foreigner, once again, showing the value that a Jarvan has against these immobile carries.
It's been so difficult for them to actually do much more than just hit a cooldown before they fall on down. And yeah, for all that good work of them having this very strong combo. I'd say, well, now we finally got the Baron. Will this be the difference maker? Will this be the factor that is allowing us to finally take more than just a tower here? And a cheeky skirmish win there. Because they're going to attend to these side lanes. Jovi going to be a bit of a menace with his mobility with that Shroud to push out the bot lane, you'd imagine. Despite Doraemon grouping up the team right now, he does have the TP. So surely can just play to the top side too and really put the pinch on.
Yeah, I think that the thinking here from Ion is that they don't want to go into a 1-3-1 because they're scared of the potential engage coming through, right? They want to have that Camille grouped, but here goes the engage anyway.
They should make it happen as Gudo jumps in, instantly gets punished! Hextech ultimatum into Jarvan ultimate and basically saying, you've got that combo, but it's never going to work. Make it free! As Doraemon's weak laning phase completely comes into effect here. And he says, I get a triple kill. It doesn't matter. Late game Camille, baby.
Oh,
that's what it's all about. Jumping all over the show as they get the perfect ace.
That's why you bring the Camille onto the mid lane. The second the engage comes through, it's all Ion. They turn it around perfectly. They've got the Baron. They've got all this damage. They're going to break the turrets and break the Nexus for game 1.
There it is. That's the Baron call that we were expecting for them to say this will be the difference maker. And just like that, at 30 minutes, Ion win.
Back and forth that game was, but ultimately it's Ion who are out executing those late game team fights. You can see the smiles across this team who knows how important this game is to secure their top 4 seeding, but they are one step closer to securing that upper bracket after they win game 1.
But they certainly are. Dicey stuff now for Mammoth as they need to get a win back in this situation, or things are looking pretty poor for them. Let's run it back right after this.